Welcome to Drinking Bros, presented by GhostBed.com. Yeah, welcome to Drinking Bros, kids. We got a real live Florida man on the show today, D'Anthony.
Yeah, he's you can tell from looking at him that he's a Florida man.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. How much meth have you done today, and how many alligators have you killed?
Just a little bit of meth. Just enough to do 5 or 6 shows in a row, whatever that would be, whatever that number is. And how many was the question? How many alligators did I kill?
Yeah, how many have you killed? How many have you killed?
Well, no, I don't kill them. I just wrestle them and I let them free. That's true Florida man. You don't have to kill them. You wrestle them, beat them to the ground, and then you let them scurry back.
Yeah, it's more about
that's Florida man style.
It's more about establishing dominance. Although a lot of Florida men over the years have also used them as weapons.
Yeah,
I don't know if you've seen that. Like there's one guy who got arrested.
He threw it through the drive-thru.
Well, that was one a couple years ago, but this other dude brought one in to the convenience store. It wasn't even like a big box store where you can get some shit you actually need. It was a convenience store where he was only buying stuff that either gives you cancer or diabetes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And he threatened them, give me this stuff or I will release this alligator into the building.
Which is amazing. I mean, look, if you're going to bring a weapon in or a live alligator, I would choose live alligator anytime just because you want that footage later. Yeah. That's premium content.
I'm also not sure it's illegal. What exactly is the crime being committed?
I don't know the laws.
Like threatening
That's
somebody?
That's a good question, yeah. Like reptile in a retail zone.
Concealed
like
reptile,
that. Probably. We don't have a lot of laws here in Florida. That's why we are the freedom state, so maybe you are allowed to do it. Guys, I got to tell you, I'm feeling very overdressed. I was about to just rock the T-shirt, but I've been running in and out of the studio, and I didn't have time to get out. I feel very.
You can.
Like
no, you look great. You look great. It's fine. We're the dirtbags here, Dave. Who gives a shit? Your new book is out now. Don't Burn This Country: Surviving and Thriving in Our Woke Dystopia. I feel like we are living that every single second of the day, and it keeps changing throughout the days of what the next woke thing is. Last night felt like dystopia, watching the Met Gala, and then the news leaked of the new abortion laws that could be passed. They're looking to overturn Roe versus Wade. I follow you on Twitter, so I've seen you've had a ton of tweets about this. Boy, let's start off with how bizarre this is. This story came out at 10 o'clock last night. Do you know anything about where this was leaked from? Because right now on Reddit and Twitter, people have a name. I'm not going to say it on this show because I fear a lawsuit, to be honest with you, in case I am wrong. Have you heard where this has come from on your end?
So I have seen that there is a name being tossed around. I have no idea if it's true, but I would say this. I mean, regardless of whether it's this person or it's someone else or it came from a justice or a clerk or a hack or something else that we don't know of altogether, this person has to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Like putting aside the specifics of Roe v. Wade, which obviously we can get into, the idea that a brief from a Supreme Court justice for a decision that has not been announced yet could be leaked, especially, I mean, it goes without saying on all upcoming decisions, but especially on abortion, which is like the freaking stick your finger in an electric socket with your hand in a bucket of water type of political moment. Mm-hmm. This is bad news. This person has got to be punished severely. Like whatever the severest punishment for something like this is has to happen. And yeah, it's funny you mentioned the Met Gala thing because I'm sitting on the couch last night, end of a long day of press and stuff. I've got my tequila on the rocks. I'm watching Seinfeld. I'm flipping Twitter. I'm watching all these pictures of these Met Gala freaks in their whacked out dresses and the picture of Hillary Clinton with the black guy and the mask on his knees and she's flashing the white power sign. And I'm like, it's just another night. I can enjoy Seinfeld that I've seen for the 500th time and go to bed. And then next thing you know, bam, Roe v. Wade, this leak and everything else. And now all hell has broken loose today. And you're kind of seeing what happens when a certain set of people don't get what they want. They go to burn it down. And I guess that's why I titled this thing the right way.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't have timed it up any better, to be honest with you. Now, as a Republican myself, that's traditionally where I vote and I live. I was not amped about this news last night. I just came back. I was at the White House Thursday and Friday for a trip. I got to speak to Congress and Senate. I can assure you, No one there knew anything about this whatsoever. When this leak happened last night, the reactions were genuine that we were seeing all around the world. No one knew anything about this as of Thursday or Friday. So this was like a real old school, like Watergate type leak where it was like, holy shit, I can't believe this happened. Now, as a Republican, the first thing I thought was, God damn it, dude. This is the one talking point that I wanted to avoid in November altogether. And why was this part of the agenda right now? I don't really understand it, but you know goddamn well that Democrats are going to use this from here until the midterms every single second of the day. What was your reaction when you read it last night?
Well, look, we've been getting, and when I say we, I mean anyone that's kind of non-woke, whether you're a full-on Republican, whether you actually call yourself a conservative, libertarian, ex-lefty, whatever. We've been getting some good wins, right? Elon Musk gets Twitter. This is a major win for us. DeSantis taking out Disney. This is a major win for us. This judge, Mizell, Tampa federal judge, female 35-year-old appointed by Trump, just gets rid of the mask mandate just like that, and everybody falls into line. We had a couple weeks. The last 3 weeks have been pretty freaking good for us.
Yeah.
And you're right. You're right. My reaction was very similar. It's a little hard to tell exactly where the country falls on this. You know, you hear every Democrat right now is saying the 70% of the country wants Roe v. Wade. And it's like, I don't know about that. I really don't. It's a little really hard to gauge. But the thing is that Roe v. Wade, whether you're pro-choice or pro-life, as you guys know, this wasn't about abortion specifically in that that the states used to have the power over abortion. And in 1973, this ruling comes in. Now it's federal. You have to legalize it. But the thing is that the states have been making their own decisions about abortion.
Correct.
Right? So Texas has some pretty stringent laws on abortion. Florida, where I am, has 15 weeks. Now think about 15 weeks. That's 3.5 months of being pregnant. Now, that's a pretty long way into a pregnancy, and it's not that far off from a viable life. Usually right around 20, maybe 21 is when they could potentially be a viable life. But I don't think even most pro-choice people would argue that 15 weeks is not a life, although they're so bananas these days, maybe a lot of them would. But the point is that the states have all been making their own decisions related to this. So by Roe v. Wade going away, all it's going to do is kick it back to the states, and then each state is going to make its own decision. Now, there might be 2 or 3, maybe 5 states that completely outlaw abortion, completely 100% with no exceptions. I'm not even sure of that. But let's say maybe Alabama, Kentucky, maybe.
I was just going to say Alabama, Kentucky, yeah. All
right, so maybe they do with no exceptions. But I don't know. Maybe they would have some exceptions related to rape or incest or something like that. But I think what most states are going to do is exactly what Texas and Florida have done, which is say it's not going to be 100% illegal. It's going to hopefully be safe and rare with some limit on it, which is why the Florida thing of 15 weeks, even though Florida is really becoming a very red state, thanks to Ron DeSantis, they passed this thing and nobody was screaming on either side. Everybody was like, you know what? This is a pretty fair compromise. It allows some level of it, even if we don't love it, but it's not the crazy 8-month crap that the Democrats want. And everyone kind of let it happen. And by the way, that's only in the last couple of weeks. So I don't think this is as dire as everyone thinks. But I get your point, which is we've had a couple good weeks. We're on a nice little run. Man, did we just put steroids in the water of the crazy leftists? And the answer to that is, yeah, clearly.
Well, we'll see. I mean, never let a good anything go to waste in these days, whether it's a crisis or a manufactured one. To your point about the 15-week thing, so in America, abortions, 43% of them happen in the first 6 weeks, 36% in weeks 7 to 9. So that's 80% happen within 9 weeks.
Texas, by the way, is 6 weeks, not 15.
6 weeks in Texas.
Florida's 15.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, Florida's 15.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't really give a shit about any of this, to be honest. I don't see how this is something that even needs to be legislated. I don't understand it, but that makes the Roe v. Wade thing potentially going down a complete non-issue. Not because of it's as you said. This isn't about the ethics or legality surrounding abortion. It's about federalism and how it's supposed to fucking work. You know what I mean? Like the 9th and 10th Amendments are very clear about these things, and I don't see how people are making these parallels now. Trying to conflate abortion with some kind of protected class of people, right? So if you listen to, what's that Mongoloid's name? The dude that fucked the Chinese spy. What's his name?
Eric Swalwell.
Yeah.
That guy's like one of the biggest cunts on earth, by the way.
Ugh.
I mean, honestly, if he just evaporated right now, that'd be amazing. Anyways, he is one of many people on the left who are trying to use this for fun. They're using it for fundraising. That's what they're doing. But they're like, it's interracial marriage is next, and then gay marriage is going to get banned, and then fucking birth control is going to get banned. Like, no, it's not. That's not even the conversation we're having. The conversation we're having is if something is going to be a law, right, it should be passed by the legislative branch and not the fucking judicial branch, right? And if it's a law that doesn't pertain to anything in the Constitution, then is adjudicated at the state level or lower, not the federal level. The end. That's it. Right. All people are doing right now is reminding everyone how our system of government works. That's it. So it's literally that.
I basically agree with you. I mean, if this goes through, let's just say this thing is legit. It sounds like it's legit. Everyone's saying it's legit. Let's say this actually makes it fully through. So the day after, right now, you kick this all back to the states. Let's say the 5 states completely outlaw abortion. Let's say 38 states put some restrictions, and then 10 states, just rough doing math here, or 7 states basically are like anyone can get an abortion at any time. Well, you know what? You can travel state lines, and if there's a whole bunch of super rich Hollywood lefties that love abortion and they want to pay to fly or bus in what will end up being a bunch of young black girls, most likely, to get abortions in Hollywood, then they can go ahead and do that if they love abortion that much. I suspect over time, they're going to realize that the optics of busing in all these young girls to get abortions doesn't look so good after a couple months of video on that. But yeah, this is not connected. Even in the brief that Alito wrote, he specifically writes that this is not connected and should not be used as precedent for any other decision. And there's huge differences in the decision-making behind Roe v. Wade than there were towards, say, the gay marriage decision of 2015.
So that's all fine in theory, everything we're talking about and what the laws are. The problem is most of America grabs onto headlines, in particular in the last 6 years. The fact that this is out there and now everybody is able to scream in one way or the other, and it gives something for the Democrats to fight for and shove into the faces of Americans, because let's face it, not all of them are as smart as the two of you guys. Most of them are dummies like me. All they're going to hear is this issue, not take the time to read about what is different between state and federal laws and everything else. And this gives them a fighting chance. It's like waking up a bear at this fucking point where it was going to be an easy victory in November. And now I don't really know what's going to happen with this.
Well, that's why the thing that you mentioned at the top about the leak is so important to figure out, because whoever did this, it's political purposes.
Correct.
It's political purposes. Likely it came from someone, probably on the left side of this thing, a clerk maybe at Sotomayor's office or someone on that side of it. But
that is what I've heard as well, by the way. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably the most likely, because you gin up all the stuff that you're talking about right now. But it could be somebody else. It could just purely be a hacker. It could be a conservative that wanted to get ahead of something. I mean, who the hell knows? But the point is that you're right, that most people, I said this on my show this morning, it's like, what percentage of people honestly know what Roe v. Wade is? I would guess that probably half of America right now thinks that abortion became illegal because of what happened last night. And that's just simply not the case. As a matter of fact, you are it will be just as easy if you live in California, the most populous state, to get an abortion. Actually, it'll probably be easier because they're going to open up abortion theme parks once Disney get the hell out of Florida.
Well, you know what the next step? I mean, look, Congress and the Senate will try to take something up for sure about this. They know they don't have the votes. They'll use it for fundraising. But what the executive branch can do is divert funding that's earmarked for certain things. So Planned Parenthood will be fully funded anytime there's a Democrat in office, and completely defunded anytime there's a Republican in office moving forward. So that'll be interesting. That's one of the interesting, like, second order effects of this. And man, they're salivating right now. They're like flag makers after 9/11. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to get that flag money now. Everybody's buying flags. Planned Parenthood is like, they're just like a hungry pit bull with drool coming down their mouths right now, just waiting for all this federal funding to come in and all this lefty Hollywood funding to come in.
100%. And so, with that, why did this happen right now? And why was this issue on the table now? I know, the Supreme Court is supposed to be beyond politics. One would have figured you would have looked at the docket and said, all right, let's push this to the next session after November. Why was this going on right now, and why was it leaked now?
I mean, politics are just messy. It's just as simple as that. Like, we always want, depending on who's in office and who you like, you're always like, I don't want things to happen before the election, or maybe they shouldn't happen right after the election, or we can always pick and choose that. The leak is the leak, so we need to just find out more about who leaked it and why they did it. So we can't really speculate on that any further as to why they did it right now. I suspect it's because of what we're talking about here. They just, look, the things are so bad for the Democrats right now in terms of inflation, gas prices, supply chain, disaster, either war or not war, depending on what day it is in Ukraine. I mean, the litany of crap, the fact that the president has dementia, that's a problem. The fact that Kamala Harris barely is functioning as a person. Nancy Pelosi's 860 years old. This is the worst administration of any of our lifetimes. I'm certainly willing to say that. I think I'm the oldest of the three of us. Like, it's such a disaster that it just gives this is the almost in some ways, it's like the only thing they could grasp on. So you're right. Now you fire up their base, their crazy, rabid, lefty, nutbag base, because they will basically look past all of those issues. They will look past lockdowns and disaster of COVID and mandates and all of the stuff I just mentioned, and they will be out on the streets again. And remember, this time protests will be good again. When it was other protests, it's not good, depending on which side you're on. And they will have something to just laser-like focus on. All that being said, though, we're only at the beginning of May. The election's not till November, and things change so freaking quickly that they may have, for lack of a better phrase, they may have shot their load a little early on this one.
Yeah, I agree.
Because we got a lot of time till November.
What we're going to be looking at, this is my hot take, is a repeat of summer 2020, right? You're going to see fucking violent protests all over the place. And it's going to, I think in the end, it'll fuck Democrats over more. Because the people that you would expect in Republican politics to maintain neutrality vis-a-vis the legality of abortion and the availability of it will continue to do that. Only like 30% of abortions happen in red states in the first place, and it's not because they're illegal. It's because there's less concentrated urban centers where poor people, single mothers live. That's why. It's just a statistics thing, right? It's a distribution thing. But this is going to be another situation where the left, after January 6th, has to make excuses for their people going out and fucking shit up, right? Or going out and spreading COVID to everybody. I don't know if you remember, but when Kavanaugh was getting confirmed, a group of about 400, mostly women, did try to storm the Capitol and did try to storm the Supreme Court building, knocked over a couple of barricades that were in their way until they ended up storming the fucking Hart Senate building and occupying that. Like, all that shit happened. Over 100 people were arrested. It's the same situation, right? The only difference is Capitol Police didn't open the door for them and let them in. So it'll be interesting to see the mental gymnastics that happen from the left on this. And I think that the problem is that more and more people are wise to this now. Like, you say a lot of people are fucking stupid and whatever and don't pay attention past the headline. But I think what's going on with Musk and like one of the real breaking points for people was being locked down for months and then having public health officials tell them that dealing with racism is more important than this disease that's allegedly the most deadly thing of all time, right? The cognitive dissonance, there's a limit that people will go to. And I think a lot of people got red-pilled and black-pilled because of the fucking absolute distortion of reality that's happening from the left over the last year and a half. We saw it in Virginia. Like, the people in Virginia aren't, like, super conservative. But when you came after their kids, they're like, hey, get the fuck out of here. We're not doing that shit. And so there's a limit for everybody. It'll be really interesting to see how this plays out between now and November and see what the middle of the country does. People that just don't care about this, Right.
Look, when the media tells you that if you're at a Trump rally, it's a super spreader, and the next week when they tell you if you're at a social justice rally or a BLM rally, oh, maybe that'll help herd immunity, which is literally, I mean, that is literally what they were doing. Let's not forget Lori freaking Lightfoot.
Yeah.
And if you're taking your medical advice from Lori Lightfoot, you have a different medical problem that you should be examined for. But that woman, she was out, demanding that all of her restaurants be shut down, kids be locked down, schools closed, blah, blah, blah. And then she's out there at the peak of COVID without a mask, which I had no problem with, except for the hypocrisy, saying that it's okay, literally saying that it's okay, that this supersedes COVID. Sometimes there are things that are more important. So yeah, the hypocrisy, I think, has really red-pilled an awful lot of people. I'm just back from 8 days. I did 8 shows in 8 cities in 8 days to kick off the book tour. And I got to tell you, a huge amount of my audience, these are not traditional conservatives. My audience is kind of all over the place. So I've got some traditional conservatives, but I obviously have a huge bunch of former liberals, former lefties that are waking up. Mm-hmm. And I would say the biggest group that I meet are the red pill. They're the suddenly red pill. They're what I call liberals who were mugged by reality, who were, when I was in Cali, they were people that owned restaurants that were Democrats their whole life, and then suddenly realized that it was Democrats that had destroyed their lives. And then next thing you know, they're libertarians. And then you give them a couple of years, they'll be conservatives. That's kind of how it works. So yeah, I think there's been a mass red pilling. But again, you got to give the devil his due. The machine does weird things. We were feeling really good for a couple of weeks, and then this thing drops at 10 o'clock last night. So it's like, what comes in 3 weeks from now? Who the hell knows?
Yeah, and again, it's the perfect story. I was thinking about it on the drive over here today. There isn't an issue more hot button than this that the Democrats could really fucking coast on and just drive home into their base than abortion. And, speaking of that story, I'm looking at the guy who reported this first. His name is Josh Gerstein. He's a senior legal affairs reporter for Politico. Why did he get this story versus the AP or the Times or the Washington Post? Why this guy in particular? I think they'll be examining the connections between him and some certain people he's worked with in the past, potentially over at Sotomayor's office. But, why this guy in the middle of the night?
I hope they do. I hope they do. I mean, Politico's trash. Almost everything that corporate press puts out is complete trash. The New York Times crazy hit piece on Tucker Carlson over the last couple of days, which I don't know if you guys saw that.
That shit's
picture.
It's hilarious.
You saw that picture of him holding it?
That's some of the best comedy I've read in a long ass time. I mean, it's so fucking funny. Especially for anybody that knows Tucker as a person. Like, you can't, that's the dumbest shit ever. He's like the sweetest dude of all time.
Yeah,
I mean, it's so stupid.
I don't want to brag, guys, but 5 years ago, the New York Times did do a Sunday cover piece with my picture, along with Ben Shapiro, Thomas Sowell, Milton Friedman, and Jordan Peterson, saying we were the leaders of the alt-right. So, Tucker thinks he's cool. I'm OG New York Times hit piece. But these people are all jokes, and I think your point is totally right. It's like, they got to figure out, why did this guy get the story? What are his connections? Where did he work? Like, there could be a very layered conspiracy here, although not sure we quite have a media that would be looking into such things.
No, and, look, Biden, he has vowed to fix this, whatever that means. But legally speaking, does he even have the grounds to overrule the Supreme Court if this is ultimately what they decide to do?
No, what he said is he's going to send a bill to Congress that would deal with it on the federal level, which technically that's certainly legal to do. And even if they passed it, it would probably go back to the Supreme Court, or a lower court would say the majority opinion on the Supreme Court case said that it should be a 9th and 10th Amendment issue and not a federal case. So I'm not sure that the Congress can really do anything anyways.
Well, what does it mean for it to be codified? Because I'm seeing this word a lot today.
Made into law.
Okay.
That's it. Like pass a bill that says that.
Because he's demanding Congress make abortion the law of the land, is what he says. Obviously, Schumer and Pelosi are out all day today blaming Trump for appointing 3 Supreme Court justices on this.
Oh, Elizabeth Warren was, there's a video of her walking and talking, except for she's old and feeble, so not great at walking, but she's like, oh my God. It's like, you know that.
Shaking. She was shaking.
You know that meme of Vince McMahon where he makes the different faces, then at the bottom it's lasers coming out of his eyes? She was at the laser coming out of your eyes portion of that fucking meme.
Oh, yeah.
Why is it that no Democrat can walk without an aide holding them?
I don't know. They're running out.
You see that she's got somebody holding her the whole time, and she looks like she's gonna. I mean, she's not that old, but they love. It's really weird because I consider myself begrudgingly pro-choice at least for a couple of weeks. Which is why I think the Florida 15-week thing I think is a compromise in an America that has 350 million different people with all kinds of religions and non-religions and beliefs and everything else. I don't deny that it's life. The sperm meets the egg. It's life. That's the beginning of life. I just personally think that there's a difference between those first few weeks of cells splitting versus creating a form and a heartbeat and everything else. But whether you guys agree with me or disagree on that,
I actually do. By the way, I'm in the same camp as you are in this one, and I'm speaking as a parent of 3 here. I've got a newborn in 3 days. That's on the way.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's what it's all about. And even whether we agreed or disagreed, the fact that we could do this conversation is really more important because they don't want any of us talking about any of this nuance. That's why if you're going to watch, I don't recommend anyone watch CNN or MSNBC or anything else, but they're going to really go out of their way to confuse their audiences. They are not going to be talking about the nuance related to the original 73 decision that was saying it's a constitutional right, yet we all know there's no constitutional right to an abortion. There's no precedent that makes it a constitutional right. Obviously, it was a bad decision. That doesn't mean that you can't be, say, somewhat pro-choice and have something like a principled position on that. But the decision was bad. That's why what Alito wrote was so damning. It's that the basis of the decision was bad. But MSNBC and CNN, they are not going to be telling their audience the honesty of, hey, maybe this was a bad decision. Maybe it's not based in the Constitution. And by the way, if you reverse this thing, it doesn't make abortion totally illegal. They're going to be ramping up the confusion of their own audience so that their own audience will think abortion will be illegal because that feeds the insanity.
Well, luckily we've got a disinformation governance board to manage all of the misinformation that's going to come out. I'm sure they'll do their job and point out that this is just a states' rights issue and federalism and not an outright ban of abortion. Right?
Yeah, it seems fine. I think they got it all under control.
I have a lot of faith.
Yeah, tons.
That woman seems sane, by the way. Doesn't she seem like really she should be in charge of anything?
She seems like a character from Portlandia, to be honest.
Yeah.
She does.
It's wild. I know. It's wild. But I like that you're able to have these conversations that are open and honest because, the other part of this to me is, who am I to tell a woman what to do with her body, one, and what a life is? But I am certainly open to the conversation on both sides to listen to it. I just don't think a lot of people are. And I think that's the difference. And I think with these protests and everything else that we're about to see, because right now they're currently lining roadblocks, it looks like, around the Supreme Court.
Oh, no, Supreme Court, they had barriers up around the Supreme Court by fucking 10:30 p.m. last night.
Really?
Yeah, it was crazy. 10 minutes in. 10 minutes after the decision, there were barricades and people were showing up. I mean...
Yeah, I'm looking at it now.
Yeah,
how'd you get it that fast?
Well, if I'm the reporter, I definitely would have called Capitol Police and let them know what I was about to put out. Honestly.
Yeah.
I think that's probably a good idea to let DC Metro or somebody know, like, hey, I'm going to put a story that, this has been a 60-year fight or a 50-year fight now. 50, right? When was Roe v. Wade? 72?
73, yeah.
73?
Yeah. 48, something like that, yeah.
I mean, this has been, and I want to get back to some political stuff because this is dominating everything, but that meme that Elon Musk posted the other day that showed the right, left, and center and how the left has moved farther to the left. I want to know, as a reformed lefty guy yourself, can you tell me one issue in the entire world of politics where the American right has moved farther to the right? Because I've been asking a lot of people this question. I can't think of any.
No,
and
they're-
I'm being like sincere about that. I really can't think of any. Like this certainly is not it, because they've been trying to end this shit for 40 fucking years.
Yeah,
You know what
but I actually think it is abortion, just simply because in the last 2 years you've had states flip it on their own, where that hasn't happened. I don't think in my lifetime. Is it Texas, Missouri, and Florida? I think have laws in place, and those weren't there. Everything,
but that's also a reaction to what some of the Democrat states were doing, where New York passed, basically post-birth abortion laws, and then they lit up the Empire State Building because they were so proud of what they passed. So in that regard, both sides have. But your question about what the right's done to move more right, first, I would say, the traditional right-left thing sort of doesn't make sense anymore, because Trump freaking flipped this thing so upside down and so changed how everybody viewed politics that what we all would have considered right and left of 10 years ago barely makes any sense anymore. So for the most part, it's very easy for everyone to see how the left went bananas with everything. And you can very much see how the right moved leftward. So you could take something like gay rights. For the most part, or let's say marriage equality, for the most part, people on the right, they have their own personal religious beliefs, but gay marriage is sort of settled and done. People are basically okay with it. You don't see any mainstream politicians railing against it anymore. So by a traditional left-right thing, that means that the right moved left, meaning that Trump came in as a first-term president and he was for gay marriage.
Right.
Even Barack Obama, first time around, was not. So that proves your first point, that yes, the chart made sense. Everybody was moving left. In terms of who has any position really moved right, I mean, this is where people get confused as to what right and left are.
Yeah.
To me, left and right are, left means you like centralized power, and right means you like individual rights. Eventually, you go so far around that thing that you get the alt-right, where they end up liking that same collectivism as the left, right? That's what they call the horseshoe theory. You kind of, or the fishhook theory, you end up going so far around that the collectivists on both sides are arguing for the same freaking thing. They just don't realize it. For example, it's the lefties who took Aunt Jemima and Uncle Ben and the Land O'Lakes lady off of all of our products. That kind of sounds like something that the white supremacists would like, right? We took all of the people of color off the products, but it was the lefties that did it. As far as, are there any positions that moved rightward in America? I think only in the last year, because of COVID, where suddenly people started returning to states' rights, which is a little more of a conservative, say, constitutional belief, something that I definitely believe in. But I don't think anything in terms of what people think right means, meaning somehow having to do with racism or something like that. I know that's not what you're saying. But I think the right has moderated for the most part, while the left has pretty much gone bananas.
But that's the instinct when you are someone that's political foundation is rooted in individualism, right? Like, you have to moderate. There's no version of libertarian authoritarianism. It doesn't work that way. And if it manifests that way, then that's not what it is, right?
Right.
So,
what do you make of these people that say that they're left libertarians? I always hear this, these left libertarians, these social, I don't know what the hell it means. I've never understood it, but they keep saying it. And they always have anime avatars on Twitter.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same, like anybody, these young kids, and it's the reason that Churchill said, if you're young and conservative, you have no heart. If you're old and liberal, you have no brain, right? That's a very famous quote. But I expect young people without life experience to be like, this is a virtually untested idea. The idea that we operate on the basic assumption that all people are good and that there are no bad actors. Because that's the only way these utopias work, unless there's an authoritarianism behind it. And that's what the left libertarians are. They're just like, they've deluded themselves. Hey, man, can't we just all get along? You know what I mean?
Right. They're just smoking too
work.
much weed, basically.
Yeah, more or less. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just look.
And
at
they're not smoking more weed than me, by the way.
No, nobody is. Nobody's smoking more than Dan.
You're just smoking the better stuff.
Yeah.
I'm getting it from Elon's farm down here in Austin.
Exactly. But when I look at the left, I just look at it as a broken party. You have two different parties in one, where you have the progressives who want, shit super radical, and then you have the more moderate Democrats that are more traditional that we're used to in our lifetime.
Yeah, but the conservative side is the same. The conservative side is George W. Bush and Dick Cheney and all these assholes that want war and fucking, like, they presided over the largest expansion of the federal government in the history of this country.
No, I understand that, but they all vote together. And that's the thing, is like there is some, I mean, absolute fucktown crazy kids here on the right side that are super all right, that even I can't get behind, where I'm just like, all right, I can't go with Boebert and that type of shit. But they all vote the same. Now, the problem with the Democratic Party is they don't vote the same. And it's clear when you have the presidency, the Senate, and the Congress, you should be passing everything in sight.
Yeah, this is the second time in 10 years that they had it, right? They had it in when they passed Obamacare as well.
Right.
In 2011.
And you haven't had any of that. I think the biggest bill to try to move forward for Biden thus far is the Build Back Better plan, and that was nuked by their own party. Like, they had the votes. They could have easily passed that through if they wanted to. But their own party is fractured, and they can't come together on any of these topics. And if they do lose in November, and it is a bloodbath, like it is expected, what are they going to do for the other 2 years but bitch about what their own party didn't do?
Well, first off, let's all pray that fracture remains, right? Because thankfully, because of Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema, they didn't get Build Back Better to go through. They've still managed to wreck the economy without getting more spending done. So it's a good thing that they don't walk fully in lockstep.
Well, they got the bipartisan infrastructure bill, which, by the way, wasn't necessarily passed bipartisan. They just put the word bipartisan in the name of the bill. That's really funny. That's like Honest Dave's used cars or some shit.
Yeah.
Like, well, usually when they say bipartisan, they just mean like a bunch of people all decided to do a lot of bad shit.
Yeah. That's
pretty much what they mean. But the point is that there are a couple old school Democrats left. So let's say Kirsten Sinema, Joe Manchin. But, if you think of the prototypical Democrat, when people think of a liberal Democrat, they usually think of JFK. Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. That's the 180 reverse of Bernie Sanders. That's the 180 reverse of what the modern liberal progressive Democrat is, of what AOC is, and what the energy of the party is. So somebody like, say, a Chuck Schumer, or even, believe it or not, even a Nancy Pelosi, 10 years ago was not this bananas insane.
Right.
But they have all decided, and I think it's to your point about individual rights, because they don't know where rights come from. They don't know what made this country great. They just believe, oh, you should use state power when you kind of feel like you should use it. Where on the right, people have a basic understanding of limited government and individual rights. So they all get dragged to their worst inclinations all the time. I mean, at what point have they ever turned back on any of this stuff? So I would say the more fractured they are, the better. And for the most part, even though there's a lot of sucky Republicans, obviously, and Republicans have dragged us into a lot of bunch of bad wars and done all kinds of spending. As I always say on the show, you don't have to be a Democrat, or you don't have to be a Republican, but you can't be a Democrat. I think that's basically where we're at this point. You have to roughly vote for Republicans right now, whether you think they're good or not.
It's interesting, the discourse that's going on right now. More and more I see people who feel like they have no political home at all. And I wonder if, like, you're seeing it on the left as well. All these kids that thought they were getting their student loans forgiven, they are fucking pissed. Right. Understandably so. Not that I think they should have their loans forgiven. But if somebody says they're going to do it and then they win because of your help and then they fucking tell you like, sorry, can't do that.
Yeah, we're not doing that.
And I mean, even Pelosi the other day said they don't even have the authority to do it, which is, maybe she shouldn't have said that in public. But you're seeing it, both sides are, it's not even that people are going towards the middle. It's that people don't know what, like, left versus right is not a thing anymore. There's no classical liberal versus like laissez-faire conservative debate going on in American society anymore. That's just not a thing.
It's Bloods and Crips.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, that's the interesting thing. At some point, the United States political system has to redefine itself and choose new names and new mascots and new bullet points, because right now it's everybody fighting everybody, right?
Well, I'll tell you, there's one guy doing it, and he's the governor of the state that I'm in right now. It's Ron DeSantis. Yeah. I mean, he's the guy that's doing it right. He has fought the system. He has fought Disney. He has fought the medical establishment. He's fought the political establishment. All the guys doing. It would be hard if I asked either one of you, like, give me a great DeSantis quote. It's hard for you to come up with it. All he's doing is throwing out sane, rational, decent, I would say center to center right stuff. Get off my back. Let us live freely. Do not mandate shit on us. Get out of our kids' schools, et cetera, et cetera. It is all stuff that we all knew to be true 10 years ago. And I think he's modeling it right. And by the way, the guy's only, I think he's 42 or 43 years old, former member of the military, lawyer. This guy's got the freaking pedigree that is right. I've met him a couple of times. He's a good dude. And I think that is what the future will be. I think part of the problem that you're talking about is that we're dealing with a bunch of geriatric people that should be retired and should be grandparents right now. Yeah. Nancy Pelosi is running for re-election again. The woman's 800 years old. It's like, go be a grandma, lady. What are you doing? Joe Biden obviously is cognitively gone. Get out of here, man. Trump is old. It does, across the board, McConnell, all these guys, get out of the way and let Gen X. How old are you guys? I'm 45.
41.
33, same age as Jesus Christ.
He's 65. Totally he's 65 years old.
Yeah, we're all around the same age.
But the point is, so Gen X, I'm like smack dab in the middle of Gen X. Gen X is usually thought of as like, 40 to say 55, something like that. So you're a little closer to Gen Y. The point is that Gen X and Gen Y, if you're somewhere between early 30s and mid to late 50s, you're still roughly young and your body's still working, your mind is still working, you've got some experience behind you, maybe you've got a family, you've lived in the real world, you've made mortgage payments and car payments, and you still can fight. These people are holding on to some shit they should have left behind a long time ago, but they can't let go. They can't let go.
Yeah, we need, I think, more than term limits, we need age limits on holding office, right? Like if you're
all the way around, Supreme Court as well.
Yeah, if you're past retirement age, you got to go. Like a 75-year-old person in almost every facet of life is considered generally unemployable because of just physical deterioration or mental, or they can't connect with what's going on anymore because of their Luddites or whatever the fuck, right? There's always some reason. Generally considered unemployable unless it is to rule us all. You know what I mean? That seems like an odd choice to make an exception for these sons of bitches. I hate old people. I'm very like what is it? That Michael
anti-ageism?
York. Yeah, it's that Michael York. Logan's Run. Remember that movie back in the day?
Yeah. You want to kill all the old people.
I don't want to kill them. Like
I'm some monochrome jumpsuit.
Yeah,
I'm willing to compromise. Forced labor, right? You've lived your life. Contribute back to society, bro.
Start chopping rocks, bro. Start chopping rocks. Hey, since you brought up DeSantis, is he your choice for 2024?
Look, the guy is great. I want him to crush it first here in Florida, right? So he's got his own election to deal with in November. I want the guy to crush it. I'm talking like 65% of the vote. I think that's fully legit and possible. This state has really turned red. I can tell you as a new Floridian, I walk around, I meet all sorts of new Floridians all the time, and everybody knows why they moved here. They know what they fled, usually from Cali or New York. And I think he's going to win in a landslide. And then he's got a window to really fortify this state, continue to be the model for America as a governor and for the right ideas. And then the question really is, what the hell is Trump going to do? And, my sense is that some of the energy behind Trump has started to dissipate, that even the base is kind of like, what are you doing right now? Look, I voted for Trump. I like Trump. If he ran and that was the choice, I would absolutely vote for him again without question. He was treated horribly by the media. I actually think he's a good, decent guy. And I become good friends with Junior, who's a good, decent guy. I know Ivanka a little bit. These are good people. They really are.
Yeah.
But it may just be that the machine just would never allow him to be president again. And the real thing, there's two things that he has to confront that I don't know that he wants to confront. And if he was watching this, I would say it to him directly. First off, if he runs, the Democrats are so banged up right now that 5 million people probably who would not vote if it was DeSantis or somebody else are just going to vote because they hate Trump, right? So the hate Trump vote is just going to bring people out of the ether. That's one thing. The other thing that he has that I think is a bigger problem is that if he truly believes the election was stolen, which it seems that he believes that, okay, fine. Well, if you believe that, unless you've done the work to fix it, then why wouldn't they steal it from you again, right? Mm-hmm. So he has to really address that. So if he addresses those two things and can answer those two questions, then I would say it's a little more real. But also him and DeSantis have to have a powwow. They have to have a behind closed doors sit down and say, what's the future of this thing? And, can Trump put the ego aside? I don't know.
Yeah, but it's like DeSantis is conservative in the traditional way, but not so much in the party politics nonsense that's been going on over the past since Newt Gingrich started the fucking family first nonsense in the mid-90s, early 90s. Well, 94. That's not the debate people are having anymore. So, like Trump is not conservative, in my opinion. Like he hasn't been his entire life. He's a business guy that likes to
he's a pragmatist.
He's a pragmatist.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not somebody I would consider a conservative.
A traditional conservative, yeah.
But DeSantis is. Like DeSantis, and I'm not going to say, a lot of people have referred to him as a Reagan Republican, which I don't know what that means. Like starting fucking wars everywhere and tripling the national debt. Is that what you mean by Reagan Republican? But he seems like a guy that is rooted in actual conservatism. I don't know that, and I think this is why he's so successful, because the debate against that is classical liberalism, not this crazy bullshit that's happening now. So it's like somebody's having a conversation, be like, well, here are the data points. You're just like,
Right.
That's the argument that you have when you face a person that actually has a foundation. You know what I mean? Like this guy understands the rules of the game, and nobody else is playing it. Now, I don't know if he just gets drowned out by all the madness or whatever, but
he's solid. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if he wants to run. I know the guy loves Florida. I've been to enough of his talks, enough little events and fundraisers to hear him talk about how much he loves this state and how proud he is. The guy, think about this. The guy won by 30,000 votes. And it turns out that the guy who he ran against, Andrew Gillum, turned out to be a meth addict. That's where we started this show, with meth.
Yeah.
Well, we're back. The guy that almost was the governor of Florida, turned out he was caught at a meth orgy. So Florida was that close to the brink of hell. And this guy is really proud of what he's done. If I'm not mistaken, when he took over, there was about a 200,000 deficit in terms of registered voters for Republicans. They're now up by about 40,000. That's a huge freaking swing. So I think let this guy just crush it in November, and then let's just see what happens. And Trump just has to decide, hey, can I be the bodyguard? Can I run the rallies and get the base going and fight the media and be the linebacker and let him run right through the middle? Maybe he could. It doesn't sound like a Trump move. That would be pretty awesome. That would be a nice piece of the Trump story, wouldn't it?
I think more and more people are going to pressure him into that position over time, especially after the midterms later this year. Bill Clinton did it for Obama. Hillary didn't, because she was butthurt that she didn't win the nomination in 2008, but Bill Clinton was all over the place.
Yeah.
What do they refer to him? The CEO of explaining shit or something like that?
Yeah.
I think was his nickname. So he would go have these rallies all over the country during 2008 and 2012. Mm-hmm. And just Obama says this, here's what he means from a guy that you trust.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Or whatever the fuck. It was really effective. People on the left, for some reason, despite the fact that he's probably a rapist, still love Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
I have no idea why. He's
got a great attitude.
I guess, yeah. I mean,
he's not a Republican. That's why they love him. Yeah. You're allowed to rape people if you're a Democrat. You're allowed. There's only one privilege in this country. It's Democrat privilege. You're allowed to do all the drugs you want. You can rape all the women you want. You can lie about everything. You can cheat and steal and the whole damn thing. You can call elections fraudulent. Stacey Abrams, Hillary Clinton. You can do whatever you want. That's the one privilege that really exists in America.
Well, when you own the media, you have that privilege, right? Because
it's pretty sweet.
When you're putting out the message, congratulations, you can do whatever you want. Since you brought up Hillary, she was at the Met Gala last night. She's awful visible these days. Is she going to make a run in 2024?
I mean, look, it ain't going to be Biden.
No.
I don't know that Biden makes it. If we found out, as the three of us are talking right now, that, Biden broke his hip and that was that, none of us would be surprised, right? If they broke the story finally tomorrow that the chef at the White House says he's been putting medication in the croissants in the morning to keep his brain functioning, would that surprise us? No. So I don't think they expected him to break down this quickly, which was they probably should have seen it, because it was pretty obvious to most of us. The thing that's interesting to me is that they just refuse to cover this on mainstream media. But at some point, somebody's going to say something. My guess is that Obama is going to be in some offhand interview, and he's going to say something like, I guess Joe has lost a step or two. And then suddenly the media is all going to be like, oh, well, Barack Obama said that Joe Biden lost a step or two. Is there something wrong with Joe Biden? And then they'll either kind of force him out or, his head could just explode. I mean, who the hell knows with this guy? Let's not forget, remember when his eye exploded during the debate and it was all filled with blood? So you just don't know what's going to happen with this guy. But at the end, all right, so even whether it's Biden, a broken down, completely decimated Biden, or it's Kamala who polled at 0% in her own party when they selected her, or I don't know. I mean, who? It's Gay Pete. I don't know who the hell it could be. This is a seriously unimpressive group of people. So Hillary may see one last opportunity, but oh God, could you imagine? Could you imagine we get a Trump-Hillary thing again? It's like,
no, I don't want that.
Idiocracy, man.
Well, for content, let's face it.
For us, it's good. For us, it's good.
I mean, that's,
that
Fraser Ali, like, let's go. It'd be fun, but probably not what's best for the country, obviously.
I am willing to forego the YouTube clicks for what's best for the country.
That blown out eyeball, that's just like Adderall and B12 shots blowing out his fucking...
Is it really?
Is that a thing? Is that a thing?
Vessels.
Too much Adderall, your eyeball blows up?
Yeah, it's too much strain on the blood vessels behind your eyes there. It's one of the things that causes migraines too, by the way.
Huh.
At any rate, there's no way she can run. I mean, I don't know who it's going to be, but it can't be her, right? She's going to be, 76 at the time? And
it's the perfect
she's
age.
Gonna look like a spry 76 compared to Biden. That's the thing.
Certainly, but if Biden has to bow out because of his age, and he's only a couple of years older than her, I mean, isn't that an issue at that point? Like, if you don't pull fucking your crafty lefty and put another crafty lefty in right behind him.
But who is it? Because
so then they throw Gay Pete in. It's Gay Pete.
Yeah,
but he would get fucking decimated. That guy is so stupid.
Yeah,
so stupid.
He is.
Yeah, I mean, because DeSantis is a pretty strong candidate from the right, and if it's him, I don't mind that whatsoever. I think the left is searching for who that person could be, and Pete already ran once.
Yeah.
They forced him out of that election. Because let's face it, a lot of people forget this, but during those primaries in South Carolina, if they didn't, Biden won South Carolina. If Biden doesn't win South Carolina, he's not the president of the United States. Pete was winning pretty handedly, and then they bought him out of the election, along with Klobuchar and one other person who I'm blanking on. But they essentially, the Democratic Party, bought them out so Biden could be in there and be the nominee. If you were willing,
you're 100% right. That is not a conspiracy theory, what you're throwing out there. I mean, basically at that point, they had everybody shut it down before Super Tuesday. They cut them all deals, obviously. That's what politics is. By the way, both sides do it. They said to Gay Pete, hey, you'll be the transportation secretary. And
you'll get 2 months of paternity leave.
Right. The only reason I keep calling him Gay Pete, by the way, is because the only reason he has the job is because he's gay. Obviously, I don't have a problem with gay people. My husband's gay. It's not a big deal. But
that's super gay of you.
But they only hired the guy because he was gay. I mean, that's why he's the transportation secretary. He was the mayor of South Bend, Indiana. The guy knows nothing about roads and took 3 months off right at the beginning as we're having all these supply chain issues. But yeah, it's not a conspiracy theory. They shut them all down. They made the deal. They said, we're going to just push Biden through. And I'll give you one other thing. And I said this to Trump's face once. I had a few minutes with Trump when this was all going down. That remember when Bloomberg ran that charade for 2 months?
He spent $500 million of his own money on
$500 million.
Yeah.
And you remember those? He was in 2 debates. And if you remember those 2 debates, Biden was leading in the polls because Biden basically led in the polls the entire way. But I would bet anything on this. The Democratic machine knew that Biden was going to get hit hard in those debates because he was leading, right? So what did they do? They sent in Bloomberg. And if you remember, those 2 debates were all about Bloomberg. Nobody supported Bloomberg. Nobody liked Bloomberg. He was a horrible candidate. But for 2 hours a night on 2 debates, instead of going after Biden, who they realized was compromised and could not fight back, Bloomberg was the decoy. And then it got them far enough to get it close enough to Super Tuesday. Bloomberg drops out. They make the deal with everybody, and old Joe is president.
I mean, they really wanted Kamala at first, though, right? Until
there was that couple of weeks.
Until Tulsi,
that was a fun 2 weeks.
Tulsi, in the first debate, Tulsi Gabbard fucking annihilated her. And that was the end.
Yeah.
That's like Nixon sweating through his fucking makeup level embarrassment. I've never seen anything like that before. And then the reason you know that they wanted her is because they made her vice president afterwards. There was no reason to do that. They could have picked either one of the Castro brothers. There's a lot of fucking different ways they could have gone with that to fulfill their fucking minority quotas or whatever. You don't pick the person who was bounced first from your primaries. Like you said, she literally pulled zero.
And zero.
Jill,
and they said, hey.
Dr. Jill Biden, she hates her as well. She was pretty open about that. You know, so yeah, she's out.
But I don't think honestly, I think they're trying to groom Mayor Pete for a position down the road, and not the way that Democrats traditionally groom people.
Yeah,
I mean groom for office.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, but I don't think if DeSantis runs in 24, there's not one fucking prayer they run Buttigieg against him, because he's going to get fucked up, and that's going to ruin the rest of his political career. They'll throw my honest opinion, unless things go really tits up for the Republicans, if DeSantis were to run in 24, the liberals or the left will run some fucking has-been politician or something like that. It's like you don't fucking. You're putting in a relief pitcher when you're down 10 runs. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, there's no point.
I'll take it, man.
Metaphors.
I'll take it. That sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah.
And I think we should immediately make him emperor. I think a benevolent dictatorship is the best form of government. There's plenty of historical evidence for that.
Sure.
Just saying.
It could happen.
President is the only federal office that shouldn't have a term limit on it. Like, what other company replaces the CEO every 4 years just because, whether they're doing well or not? That doesn't make any fucking sense.
None.
But all the greatest, especially sitcoms, they replace their writer's room every 3 years, right?
They tried to. I know Seth MacFarlane initially did that.
No, The Simpsons did it too. Like all
Simpsons
those people,
well,
like
right.
fucking Conan O'Brien started on The Simpsons. There's like hundreds of great comedians out there that started writing for The Simpsons.
You know Conan O'Brien's most famous episode, by the way?
Well, no, what is it?
Monorail. That's Conan O'Brien.
Really?
Remember? The monorail goes all the way to Ogdenville.
He's always been one of the smartest guys in the room. He's a great podcast too. I wanted to ask you about CNN Plus and the fall of that, because it was so spectacular.
There are more people listening to the sound of my voice right now.
Yeah, than
Isn't that
on CNN
Isn't that
Plus.
just fucking spectacular? I try to parse out the F-bombs, but isn't it just great? These morons throw $500 million into this thing. They've got another $500 million waiting, so that some idiot's going to pay to listen to Stelter and the rest of these clowns that nobody pays for or likes in the first place. And they do it all. They do it all because they're afraid, basically, of Shapiro and Rogan and me and 5 other guys. I mean, it's just so great. You got to absolutely love the complete destruction. Nobody trusts these people. Their machinery does not work anymore. They're the Titanic, and they're basically rearranging the deck chairs as the thing is sinking. And there's a whole bunch of us that already are off. We already got the life raft, and we're going to go sail to better pastures. So it's pretty. It's just mwah, it's perfect.
Yeah. The only one left to fall was Don Lemon, and I thought he would go down to this sexual lawsuit that's going on right now, but it just got dropped this morning, and the guy says he's blaming a faulty memory on what happened that night.
You know what can...
That is true, by the way.
You know what
I'm reading it as we speak.
You know what can cure a faulty memory is a nice cash payout.
Yeah.
That's a really effective tool. You know, the CNN thing is like one of those instant karma situations where a guy's being a dick in traffic and then immediately gets pulled over by the police. You know what I mean? That's kind of what you're seeing there. And it's...
Yeah, it's pretty perfect. What were they thinking? I mean, these absolute clowns, they bring in just all of the worst people that nobody cares about, that have no influence, that just repeat the same old bullshit.
You know what it is? It's fucking Samuel L. Jackson and The Rock and the beginning of The Other Guys, where they're so full of their own bullshit that they jump off the building thinking they can land in the bushes. That's what it was. Why? Like, so it is very frequent that a startup will give away some of their product for free to get people. It's just like drug dealing, right? The first one's always free. You give it away for free, and if people like it, then you fucking start charging them for it. And then you develop a subscription model, then you fucking develop more SKUs. It's the same process for any business. If you offer your shit for free and people are like, look, man, I don't want that. Like, it's... That isn't when you double down.
No, I don't know why they passed that through. The staffers seem shocked, everything else about it. But
you know who the most upset about that is? Chris Wallace, right?
Like he got fucking boned.
He dumped his
Karma,
whole
man,
career
karma.
into that shit. He dumped his whole career into that shit. He's like, okay, cool. So we're just not a business anymore? Sweet.
Well, there's a rumor they're going to give him the primetime slot here coming up, so I'll keep my eyes peeled for that. But yeah, the guy said he did a deep dive into his memory, and he thinks he misremembered the sexual assault against Don Lemon, so that is no longer. One last thing.
Well, what he said was very specific, though, which is that Don Lemon put his hand down his own pants and grabbed his testicles and then put his fingers up underneath the guy's fucking nose. That's a pretty specific thing to have misremembered, isn't it?
Yeah, one would think.
Shit.
But you don't know how many Shirley Temples you had that were winks spiked at the time, so who really knows? I know you've got to do a shit ton of press today all over.
Yeah.
I know the drill with selling books and everything. I wanted to get your thoughts here on one last story that popped up. Obviously, Spider-Man was the biggest box office hit of the year so far, and Hollywood always caters to China. This morning, they said that Sony was asked to remove the Statue of Liberty from Spider-Man to show in the country of China. Are we just going to start running every script through China first and then just kind of figure it out later?
Yes. How's that? Yes. What a bunch of pathetic, softer than a wet paper bag group of people we have from Hollywood. This embarrassing, pathetic, they took Dumbledore is not gay in China anymore. I didn't even realize he was gay in America, but I guess he had a gay scene in Harry Potter or something. That got booted. I mean, it's such an absolute farce, but these people have completely sold out our country. And as someone that lived in LA for the last 8 years till I moved to Florida, I would say let it burn. I mean that figuratively, obviously not literally, although it does occasionally rain fire in LA. It's like these people, they've stolen and raped and pillaged, and now they want their new masters to be in China who have concentration camps for the Uyghurs that everyone knows about, but nobody talks about. So, let them go down. And by the way, it's destroying all of these things. I'm a lifelong, you got that Rodman NBA jersey behind you.
Sure
I'm
do.
a 80s, 90s NBA. I mean, that's what I watch when I'm doing cardio now. Still, I watch old Magic and Bird finals in the 80s. I watch Clyde and Jordan in the 90s. That's what I watch. I don't watch any of it anymore because it all became so politicized and everything became about what you can't say about China and LeBron and the rest of it. So they're just all destroying their own industries. So Netflix will go down, Disney will go down, Sony will go down. They've all decided which way they're going. And I think we just have to build new things.
Yeah, so it's like, the Daily Wire is doing a lot of that now. Some other people are doing it as well. Kevin Sorbo has been doing it for fucking years. On his own. But I think that's going to be the next thing. People are still going to cling to this right-left bullshit for a little bit longer, Republican, Democrat, whatever you want to call it. But the real war seems to be between reasonable, rational people and people who are fucking suicidal. Like the behavior of society right now is the behavior of somebody that is in the death throes of a suicidal bender. You know what I mean? We've problematized and gerrymandered the ranks of all the institutions that protect us, like military, police, masculinity in general. All this stuff. And then reason and rationality, which protect their social guardrails for how to think and solve problems. All that's gone now. And people are just fucking, it's like, have lost their minds. They're just running around, running into walls and shit like that. And then you walk in and you're a rational person and you're not running into walls. They're like, you're a fucking racist. Like, oh, cool, man. All right, you guys, let me know when you're done committing suicide, right? I'll be hunting deer on my own and eating it. And then whenever society's ready to do society again, I'm in. But for right now, you can go fuck yourself.
Well, you got to stop bumping into white walls. That is racist.
It is.
Dave, now's the point in the show we get to the Drinkin' Bro of the Week, which is someone who has inspired you, helped you become the person you are today. Who'd you like to give the Drinkin' Bro of the Week to?
Oh, man, this is an easy one for me. You guys know I toured with Jordan Peterson. The guy changed my life. I stand up straight with my shoulders back. I've tried to put some order into the world. I'm a better person than I was before we did that thing. We did 120 stops in 20 countries. And I listened to it as much as every night I was there on the side of the stage, but I would end the show by telling everybody I'm as much as one of you guys in the audience every single night. And I have toasted to him many times, and I will do it again tonight.
We are big fans of his as well.
Big Lobster
fans. Yeah, damn right we are. We appreciate you being here. Don't burn this country. Surviving and thriving in our woke dystopia is out now. Hardcover, Kindle, and audiobook. Are you reading the audiobook?
I read the audiobook myself. And guys, I want to come back just so that next time I can tell you my Rodman sperm story. It's a good one. Oh, it's in the book, actually. It's in the book.
There we go. Buy the book.
Yeah. But I'll still come back.
Yeah, you have a standing invitation. You're great. We love having
Awesome,
you
guys.
here.
Thanks.
We appreciate it, Gay Dave. We do. For D'Anthony Holloway, Dave Rubin, I'm Ross Patterson. This is Drinkin' Bros Podcast. Good night, everyone.